ऑल राइट। सो मेरे साथ आशीष सोमैया सर हैं। बजट अभी अभी अनाउंस, स्पीच अभी अभी आई थी। सो इट्स बीन वेरी शॉर्ट स्पीच, बट उसमें काफी सारे पॉइंटर्स हम लोगों को टेक अवेज मिले हैं। बिफोर आई आस्क माय क्वेश्चन सर, आई वुड लव टू हैव अ फ्यू वर्ड्स फ्रॉम यू ऑन एन ओपन माइक कि क्या आपको लगा बजट के बारे में।
Yeah. So, on your question, Vishu, basically what I was trying to say is that generally, if you look at a cliched expectation, then, in the run up to the election, you expect that they would try to spend. And, there's a lot of news articles which say that there is a K-shaped recovery. The demand for urban and the demand for affluent kind of segment seems to be high, whereas rural economy, farm economy doesn't seem to be doing too well. Plus, there is a general election. So you would fear that there would be some profligacy or, multitude of schemes being announced for say farmers or rural youth and those kinds of things. But I think they've clearly stayed away from that type of temptation, and they've brought it back on the path of fiscal rectitude. So I think that's a positive surprise, and I would say that's a big positive. It's not like that this government has actually been a lot more disciplined. They've not shown the tendency to be profligate. But given that, all the kind of noise and chatter that you were hearing, plus the run up to election, I think it's a positive development. See, ultimately what happens is that in recent times, because of US interest rates and US monetary policy, if you see RBI, the monetary policy has been very tight, correct? Has been restrictive, actually, you can say. On the other hand, the other lever is fiscal policy. Now, if monetary policy is tight, and on the other hand, if fiscal policy is profligate, then you might lose control of things. But here, I think both the things are moving in tandem. And from that perspective, I think it's a good budget. Brings down interest rates, keeps the tendency for interest rates to go up, keeps that under check. So a lot of those things are positive takeaways.
Right. So broadly, I think you have given us a lot of good takeaways to go through. Sector specific, if we talk, I think the key theme has again been थोड़ा infrastructure की side में heavy spending आई है, but would love to hear your thoughts on it, sir.
See, actually, if you see this government consistently year on year has been, growing their spends on infrastructure, correct? Infrastructure and CAPEX. And in fact, if you see, a lot of the CAPEX has been driven by the government, correct? In fact, few days back, I read an article in the media which actually said that in India, consumption demand is not growing, and large part of the demand is only led by investment, and investment is led by the government. And that was written as a article which was actually criticizing. Now, I found that, frankly, criticism in its own place, but I found that to be quite odd because if you recall, a few years back, the only criticism used to be that in our economy, the demand is being held up by consumption and that there is no investment. And when it comes to government, they are spending only on revenue items, but not spending on CAPEX related items. So from there, I think we've come like quite a full circle. And on those high double digit kind of numbers in terms of CAPEX growth, they've put another further 11% more on the CAPEX growth. And plus, I think 30-35% is the proportion of total government spend which is actually going into CAPEX. So I think that's a very high number. I mean, considering in the past it would struggle to hit even a decent single digit. From there, I think getting 30-35% of the spend on CAPEX outlays, I think that has been clearly one success story for this government. At some point in time, of course, one expects private sector to also take up. And I think for that, maybe low interest rates, a supportive monetary policy, I think all those things are around the corner. So we'll see that happening also.
Right. And in fact, combining these two things together, they have managed to increase the CAPEX while keeping the fiscal deficit in check, which is in itself a double thing. Right. And I think another future-looking thing is the green initiatives. I think there have been quite a few solar rooftops we've got electric buses, we've got coal gasification schemes and everything. So I think renewable has also been a good focus.
Yes, see, I think considering that, in India, I mean, while if you compare us with the developing countries, or even if you compare us with China, considering that we are growing a bit late compared to some of these countries, it also behooves us that we should grow in a state-of-the-art kind of fashion. And our intensity of fossil fuel consumption should be lower because, we have more technologies at our disposal. So whether you look at nuclear plants being set up, whether you look at the push towards electrification, and I think one thing which I clearly saw, I mean, there were no specifics, but in today's budget, one thing which came up was that, incentivizing people to set up, electric charging infrastructure, and, youths who are technically qualified and who can help setting up this infrastructure or can get employment in setting up this infrastructure, that would be given encouragement. So we should look for more specifics, but I think all of what is being said is probably in the right direction. And I think, in keeping with the spirit of a vote on account, while Madam Finance Minister said that they are expecting that they will win and they will have, the next 5 years will be the best ever. But I think in keeping with the spirit of a vote on account, we didn't see too many specifics. I think there's a lot to look forward to when June, July actually comes.
Right, absolutely. Talking about what to look forward to, do you have maybe what are your top 3 key takeaways for the investors in the market?
Yeah, I think for the investors in the market, this budget is like, it's not like there is some immediate fillip or some immediate thing, right? But if you ask me, structurally, a fiscally prudent budget, which would keep interest rates in check, which would keep deficit in check, which would ensure that the currency doesn't go into a tailspin. I think a lot of those things are very, very important. See, if a government is not mindful about fiscal rectitude, throws caution to the winds, then you might get a lot of short-term boosters, but in the long term, your taxation, inflation, interest rates, currency, everything can just go completely into a tailspin. So if you see in the last 10, 12 years, considering where they started from, and the government talks a lot about, they found themselves in fragile pie, and from there, now that's a reality. I mean, 2013, 14, we were in that kind of position. I can tell you one thing with complete confidence, that from mid-2021 till end 2023, the way US has raised interest rates, oil going to 129, the FII outflows, the war, if all of these things had happened with India being in a 2013 kind of situation, we would have been in a disastrous situation, really, if you ask me. So from there, I think we've traversed a huge journey. And I think that is what investors need to really keep in mind instead of thinking about short term, kal subah kya lene ka hai. And that's very short term. Whereas what the government is doing over the years, bringing us much more fiscal discipline, doing more structural things, being more long-term in thinking, I think, that really goes a long way in building a right environment or a conducive environment for investors also to think long-term and compound their wealth.
Right. And it also helps to contribute the 5 trillion mission that we have. So it's not about just achieving that number. This would help us achieve it in a sustainable way. Uske aage bhi we can do it. Absolutely. This was great, sir. Thank you so much for your time and talking to us and giving us your insights. We hope to host you again soon, sir.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to never miss an update from ICICI Direct.